This is the Danger Close podcast, Beyond the Books with me, Jack Carr. Welcome to the Danger Close podcast, an Ironclad original presented by Navy Federal Credit Union. My guest today is Meg Gardiner. She is the Edgar Award winning novelist of the Jo Beckett series, the Evan Delaney series, and the UNSUB series, as well as 4 standalone thrillers. She also co-authored Heat 2 with filmmaker Michael Mann. That is out now on shelves, and it is fantastic. It's both a prequel and a sequel to Michael Mann's 1995 film Heat. And I had such a great time reading this novel, as you will hear on this podcast. So now, without further ado, Meg Gardiner. Meg, how are you?
I'm well. How are you, Jack?
I am great. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
Oh, you bet. It's a great opportunity. I'm so glad you're having me on the show.
Oh, I am so excited. And so I was 1 minute late for those that are watching or listening because I could not put it down. I know that's an overused term, and I don't think I've ever used it before, but I couldn't I was like, oh, well, if I don't finish it this morning, I'll just say that I'm right about here. I had to finish it. There was no way I could have jumped on this podcast without finishing this. It is so good. You did such an amazing job. I mean, rarely do I use the word best or favorite or anything like that, just because everything's so subjective, but this is awesome.
Oh, thank you so much. And I have to brag that I guess I finished In the Blood before you managed to finish Heat 2.
Nice. Well, thank you for taking the time to do that. I
absolutely
appreciate it. Too cool. But before we get to this, Heat 2, which is absolutely incredible, and I think people are going to study this. I mean, up and coming writers are going to read this about the way to do it right, wow. Keep people guessing, have everything on this, just have you on this journey that that climaxes in one of the best action scenes I've ever read, I think. Yeah.
Wow.
And I've read a lot.
You have. You've written a lot. You've written some stunning action scenes.
Not as much as you. We got here this UNSUB series. We have so much that you have going on. So before we get to Heat, and I have so many questions about what it took to get this published here, but I know we have something in common, and that's that we both like to write on planes. And I heard you say that before. And I think for me, it started about 3 or 4 years ago when I just realized, because I never log on to the whatever Wi-Fi you can get on a plane. And I take that as my time not to be distracted by anything. And I told my wife a couple of times that I think I'm just going to start just taking flights just around until I finish a novel and just sit there and have people bring me food and drinks as I type away. But I read that you like to do that too.
It's amazing. I always resisted it for a long time, thinking, who wants to pull out a pen? I've had pens explode at cruising altitude, or I don't want to try to get my laptop onto the tray table. But once you do it, usually I started because I had a deadline or something. Mm-hmm. I realized, this is shocking. I'm so extraordinarily productive. What is the difference? I'm like, well, I can't get up. I can't run out. I can't leave the plane. I'm not on Wi-Fi, nothing to distract me. It was just marvelous. So I'm glad you agree that it's a sneaky trick that we can take advantage of.
It really is. And I resisted it for a while too. But I think it was with COVID, one of my first flights during COVID when they were separating people. And so you didn't have someone right there just looking over your shoulder by necessity, just by the way they were doing flights back then. And so I think I really embraced it during that time frame. And now I just continue to do it. And I think I might, maybe for this next book, I'll just keep flying. I'll take some long international flights.
There you go. And also, when you know that you're heading into, when your landing time is, you've got that countdown going on. So you try to type as fast as possible. Yes,
exactly. It's so nice. Cause for me, I find it's the interruptions that get me. We have 3 kids, dog, and it's just chaos around here all the time with people coming and going and friends and the whole thing. So what I usually do if I'm not flying is rent an Airbnb that's not too far away, but not right next door, where I can just work, a very small cabin where I can get from a table to the kitchen to a little sofa in front of a wood burning stove, and it's all right there. So it makes everything so efficient. So
exactly. exactly.
But on a plane, you can't do that. You're just stuck. But for those listening who don't know you, I know you always wanted to be a writer, but you got sidetracked by the law first for a few years. So what was that journey like, growing up and wanting to be a writer and then going into law?
I did want to write from the time I was a kid. I just loved telling stories. I loved seeing people be interested in the like little stories I would make up or write and draw with crayons. And I told my parents when I was in college, I did not major in English or creative writing or anything, but I told my parents that I really wanted to write. My parents were both teachers. My dad was an English professor. So he knew what the writing life was like, I think. And he said, that's great. That's fantastic. Have you thought about how you're going to put food on the table while you're spending all those years making your way, trying to get published and be a writer? And I'm like, really? We have to think about practical things like that. And he said, yes, so honey, if you want to go on and start writing, do it. I mean, I was fortunate that my parents really encouraged me to do what I wanted to do and believed that I could do it if I put my heart and mind and effort into it. But he said, you can start writing today. And, when you get off your shift at Denny's and get home at 2, I hope you'll have the energy to write something. Because, or, there's that other thing that we may have talked about at one point, which is going to law school, because then you could also be writing on weekends when you're paying the rent by being a lawyer. So I listened to my dad, and he was a smart man, and it was a good decision. I loved practicing law. I realized before too long that I probably didn't have the personality to thrive on arguing for a living for 30 or 40 years. So paid off the student loans and moved from writing into teaching legal writing and writing. And from there, that was my secret launch pad to move over to trying to write fiction, which took a lot of years. I'm sure you know how it goes. But
I did. I was in the military for 20 years, so there was no real option to off ramp. I guess you could, but we're in the middle of Iraq and Afghanistan, and you feel this this devotion and this duty to stay in and keep doing the job as best as you can for the people that you're with there and for the country. But similar to you, I mean, what kind of law did you practice, by the way? Did you specialize? What did you specialize in?
It was business litigation. So I was not a criminal lawyer. I went to court, but it was all civil suits. So I know the court system. I moved out of that into teaching college kids and raising my own 3 kids. And it was when my husband his job was transferred to London from Southern California that I went over there with the 3 little ones who were finally out of diapers. They won't like me mentioning that, but they were finally old enough to manage a little bit on their own at school. And I said, you know what? I've been talking about writing a novel since forever. So when am I ever going to have another chance to have the time to do it? And I'd better put up or shut up. So I took a shot, and it was terrible.
Really? So it wasn't China Lake. It was a different one.
It was a different one. It had some of the same characters in it, but I thought it was fantastic. Of course, when I was writing it, it was a caper novel, and it had thousands of characters and just pages and pages of endless banter and crazy stuff going on. And I was telling everybody I was writing this murder mystery, and a friend of mine said, "That's great, but just one thing, you keep describing this book and nobody in it dies."
Yeah, I guess a murder mystery might need the actual murder.
So that one went in the file cabinet, and I wrote another one. I wrote China Lake, which was my first published novel, and I haven't looked back.
Yeah, you've been going strong for a while and just crushing it at every turn. But that first one, did you ever show it to an agent, or did you look for an agent, or go to a book like Thriller Fest or BoucherCon or that kind of a thing, or what did you?
Absolutely, I did. I showed it to a number of agents. The first book actually got me an agent, got my first agent in London. His name was Giles Gordon. He was a legendary agent. I was extremely fortunate. He was terrific. he sent it out, got a little bit of interest in it. And, in the meantime, he's saying, this is going on. Don't sit back. What are you working on next? Get going on that. So by the time, he said, I've gotten marginal interest on it. Do you have anything else? I handed him the manuscript to China Lake, and he said, put the other one away. which my husband kind of he sort of slapped his forehead, and because I'd been working on the first one for a long time, and I said, no, this one's better. I think I figured out how to clear the bar and write something that's publishable.
Nice.
So and it was.
Oh, that's fantastic. And what drew you to the thriller genre or a crime fiction in particular? Was there something that drew you to that, or did you think about some other genres first, or what was that journey like?
I was a thriller reader, suspense reader. I'm also a big science fiction reader. I think I thought about trying to write science fiction or some kind of romantic suspense, and my efforts at that were just so miserable that I quickly said, no, if I'm going to write a book, I'm going to write the kind of book that I love to read. And I imagine maybe that's one reason you are also in writing thrillers, because, there's nothing like that pulse pounding suspense, action with big, larger than life characters you really care about, who are facing huge stakes. They have, it's life and death. Their backs are up against the wall, and they'd better find a way to rise to the challenge, or die trying. So that's what I love to read, and I thought that's going to be what I want to write.
Yeah, exactly. I loved those books growing up, and my mom was a librarian, so I just grew up with books and a love of reading, and I was naturally gravitating towards things that I thought might give me some information about what I wanted my future profession to be in the profession of arms before writing. But then I fell in love with these books, and I still have them all today. I still have all the paperbacks that I read growing up, and now I'm collecting them all first edition signed, to
nice.
add to those. But I can tell you exactly where I was when I read each and every one of those novels, and I have such great memories of reading them, and the magic in those pages. And so that's what I knew I was going to do after the military, was write those. Right.
You probably have memories too, like me. Like, what was better than an afternoon or a weekend to be in this world of a big, meaty thriller and just feel like you were there in the scene with all those people. Yep. So yeah. That was, if you had a mother as a librarian as well, my father had a car that he turned into a library. So I don't think that the university library liked knowing that he had 145 books or something on all the seats. But we thought that was just what everybody did.
Well, we had a lot of books, that's for sure. And then reading was just something that was, it wasn't forced upon us. It was just natural. It was just what you did. We ate dinner together, we'd read, and we'd go on hikes or whatever it was, but it was natural. It wasn't like, now is your time to read, sit in that chair and read. I want you to be a reader. It was just natural. And it was
exactly.
We loved it, and I loved it, and obviously still do today, and had such great memories when I was reading this. It was kind of that same experience. And a lot of times today I have to read for work, or I'm gonna have someone on, or whatever it is, and you gotta do it because it's part of the deal. But this was so enjoyable to read this. That's what I'm talking about, that magic. Like when you talk about, you can't say what it is, like what's that thing that makes a great thriller. And it's kind of like in what's Curly in that movie when he's like The Secret of Life, and it's this, and then he doesn't say what it is. It's kind of like it's this one thing, and it's this intangible. And I describe it as heart. And they have heart. And
that's a great way to put it. But thank you. I'm delighted that you enjoyed the novel.
Oh, I really did. I really did. And in college, though, you had a professor. You did take a class, Ron Hansen, and he said that every novel has a beginning, a muddle, and an end, and every ending should be surprising yet inevitable. And and I love all of that, and that stuck with you, I think.
It did. At the time, Ron Hansen was a TA when I took a creative writing class in college. He went on later to write a lot of novels, including The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. So I'm like, oh yeah, I know that guy. But it was extremely helpful to keep these very simple things in mind as I was, trying to fumble my way through stories that it wasn't just the characters who were in a muddle, but it was the author, and that's okay. That you have to fight your way through and figure out what the thing is. But the surprising yet inevitable bit, it's it's stuck with me more than anything else. And if we think of our favorite movies, our favorite books, it's that ending that that tells us, you're shocked, you gasp when it happens. But then as you sit back, you think, oh yeah, of course.
Exactly.
It's The Empire Strikes Back or whatever. But I've strived ever since to try to come up with endings that accomplish that. That's what readers find really satisfying.
Exactly. You have that resolution, but you also have, so it's almost what they want to happen, but it's a surprise and it's inevitable. I love that too, how you go back to that for each novel. And you do also share some advice in here, how to write a mystery right here. And you're like chapter 1 in here. You're right there after Lee Child's introduction, I think. You're right in there. And I love this too. Lee Child has some stuff in here, kind of like what we talked about here about the 2 things that make a mystery, but you don't know you can't tell what they are. And then you're in here too, and you break down, and I love, you had 9, you started with 10, but then you took out the, I mean, it's so fantastic.
Thrillers need to be lean and mean. So I dropped the 10th.
Yeah. I love it. Cause that's one of your rules, in here. And I love that. So people that are interested in that little wisdom might want to pick this up right here.
It's a great book. It's it's an anthology of essays by mystery writers of America. So if you're into writing, if you want to figure it out, it's just chock full of great ideas and advice.
Yeah, no, it really is. And Lee Child was wonderful to me as I was stepping into this world. And I know that Stephen King, I think he picked up China Lake on a trip to London, where you happened to be. So how did all that come about?
We had the same British publisher, because I was published first in Britain, because that's where I was living. And naturally, they send Stephen King everything that they publish, which apparently he had, a closet full of boxes stacked to the ceiling with books they'd sent him. But he was heading on a trip to the UK for a book launch and needed something for the flight. And I wish I could tell you that he pulled China Lake from the box and read the first paragraph and, was overcome with the suspense and the writing. But apparently he looked at it and said, well, that font's nice and big. It's not going to strain my eyes on a long flight. So he stuck it in his carry-on, but he read it. And by the time he landed, he really liked it. And he told the publisher he'd read it. So they gave him the rest of the books in my first series, the Evan Delaney series. He found out that I did not at the time have an American publisher, which was a source of frustration for me at the time, that my books weren't on the shelves at home. And he was just extremely generous in paying it forward. He is not just to me, but to so many other writers, that he wrote a blog post about the books, and then he wrote a column for Entertainment Weekly about the books, urging people to try to find them, which was just extraordinary. And, he's a big dog. It was, I'd say, 48 hours after that column was published, every publisher that had said no was suddenly changing their mind. And interested in talking to me. So that he's really the one that opened the door for me in American publishing and has made a huge difference. And he's a genuine person and really nice and normal in person as well.
Yeah, that's always great when you meet someone that's a normal person. Same thing with Chris Pratt in the series. Like he just is a normal guy you'd want to have a beer with or want to have a coffee with, and so it's great when you meet people that are kind of larger than life celebrity types, and then they're just normal people like everybody else. But I know your books would have made it certainly without Stephen King. They were already published in Great Britain. It was just a matter of time till the right person saw it in the U.S. and said, "Wow, we've got a gold mine here."
Well, thanks, and the right person did see it, so I'm eternally grateful.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt that one person was Stephen King. But he wrote, simply put, the finest crime suspense series I've come across in the last 20 years. That's pretty cool.
If you don't think that knocked me flat, it certainly did. So again, I can't say enough good about everything that he has been willing to do to help me and other writers. So it's I'm extremely happy that he's in the world.
Yeah, no, amazing guy. Obviously, with On Writing, obviously we talked about this for writers to read, or obviously On Writing, which is like an autobiography, and it's incredible. I've heard you say that it's important for your protagonists to have a sense of humor. And I think that's important as well, because if you're going to spend however much time it's going to take you to read a book or listen to it today, you want to spend it with someone who's fun, who you like. Like, why would you want to spend time with someone who's like negative and not fun to be around, not clever, not thoughtful? So I don't know. So I have that in mind when I write my characters, and I did from the very beginning, that if you're going to choose who you spend time with, who are you going to choose?
Exactly.
Just in life in general, are you going to choose negative people who bring you down, or are you going to?
You don't want someone who's a drip.
Yeah, exactly. Choose someone who adds value to your life and is funny and positive and encouraging. So I think about that as I write. But was that a conscious or just a natural decision? Because I know you're funny, and if you read like just you're opening at this, I know you have this sense of humor. You're funny in your in real life, but was it natural that your characters had that from the beginning, or was it a conscious choice?
Both. I can only go so long without finding something ridiculous and wanting to and laughing at it or with it and wanting to make some kind of a quip about it. I think I had read, when I was getting the idea that I really did want to try to start writing, I had recently read Sue Grafton's early novels, which are full of wit and really clever. And I had discovered Carl Hyacin, who is hilarious, and Janet Ivanovich. And I wasn't going to write a comic novel, but I thought, okay, if you're willing to go for it, and this is what you can get away with on the page, then there's no reason I can't stick something something humorous into the story, either as a break, as a moment that relieves the tension, or does some little bit that lets readers catch their breath. And it's always a joy to be able to do that.
Yeah. Janet's funny. We did an event with Barnes & Noble together when her last book came out. And so she's hilarious in real life too, like off camera and everything too. She's just funny. So I started as well, but you have also, so you have 4 standalone novels. And then you have 4 in the Jo Beckett series, 5 in the Evan Delaney series, 3 in the UNSUB series that I mentioned. And I didn't know that it meant unknown subject. Like before I read this, I didn't know that that it was. Now I'm
shocked.
UNSUB.
I'm shocked.
UNSUB. I didn't know that either. With all the reading that I've done,
yes.
I'm like I should know that. But yeah, unknown subject. So for those that don't know, UNSUB.
Yes, it's FBI lingo.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. And so because they're kind of similar, 3, 4, 5, like that, before switching up or moving around, do you like writing those different series? There's 4 to 5, like seem like the right number, or was that just kind of random that you shifted gears, or what is that? It's kind of random. Both my first 2 series kind of came to like a turning point, or like a wrap up of a long running theme. And there are so many stories that I really was aching to tell, other thriller storylines that did not fit with the characters that I was writing about. Evan Delaney is a journalist. Jo Beckett she's a forensic psychiatrist who consults for the San Francisco Police Department. And there are stories that don't lend themselves to having them as protagonists. A big standalone story that really wraps up, that is an entire thing on its own. So that's also when I would write standalones, and readers like to mix it up too. I mean, when you get a great series, when they just dial it in, like like your books, then they're at you all the time. I'm sure they're just dying for the next one. But and sometimes you want to keep going, and sometimes you or your publisher might say, what else do you have in your in your back pocket? Let's see what else is going on. Interesting. So I asked that for personal and professional reasons, because I have a few others out there there like that, just like as you described, that might be better suited for a different protagonist, a different set of characters to explore. So I have a few of those out there. I'm not quite sure if I'm. This next one is the same main character, James Reese, continuing some of those same three themes and tying up some loose ends in this one that I'm working on now in book 6. But I have some other ideas out there. So I'm kind of, we'll see. We'll see. I've had complete creative control up to now. My publisher and agent, they've never suggested anything. So I've had complete, and I didn't know that going in. My picture of agents is what I've seen from movies in Hollywood about like Entourage or Californication or whatever. So that was kind of my vision of what an agent was like, and was what that industry was like. And it's turned out that's not my experience. I've had complete creative control, not even a hint to ever like change up something or soften something up, or it's been complete creative control, which has been fantastic. But I'm going to remember what you said right there. So I'm thinking things through for the future here. And speaking of that, so writing routine, daily writing routines, and then like over the year, do you have like, hey, you're working for 6 months like John Grisham and then taking a break for 6 months and then coming back? Or is it a constant thing that you're always adapting to? Or what's like a daily versus a year-long type of a plan? So like a tactical versus a strategic type vision when you're looking at your day and then your year.
Right. Strategically, I have been in the fortunate position of having a publishing contract ever since my first novel was sold, which means that you quickly discover as a writer that you may have spent 2 years, 3 years, 5 years getting this one, polished up like a disco ball. But as soon as that is in the editor's hands, they say, okay, you have a 2-book contract. The next one is due in 12 months or 15 months. And they say, and can you do that? And you just smile and manage to mask your panic as you say, of course I can. So quickly the discipline and the planning become important, that you understand how long it's going to take you to really nail down the concept, the storyline, the characters, how long it's going to take you to write a first draft, how long it's going to take you to revise that big steaming pile of whatever it is that is your first draft and turn it into something better. So I taught myself how to write a novel over the course of a year. And when I am drafting the first draft, and this was something that I had to learn as well, like writing on airplanes. I used to like try to write 1,000 words a day, or at least 5 days a week. When the kids are running around at home on the weekends, it's really difficult. But I was talking then to my friend Brett Battles, who's also a thriller writer. He writes the Jonathan Quinn series, The Cleaner, and some science fiction as well. And he said, I just did my first draft of the new book in like 10 weeks. I said, you did not. He said, yes, I did. I said, no, you didn't. How did you do that? He goes, I get up early and I just write 3,000 words a day, and I don't care how it sounds. I put the story down on the page and I finish the draft, and then it's there and I can fix it. Yeah. And I thought, well, maybe I should try that. So I was stunned to find out if I was determined to sit down and write and get 2,000 words a day down on paper at least 5 days a week. Doesn't have to match, you don't have to hit it every day, but for me, just spewing that story really helped. And this is after I've spent a month or two writing an outline. So that's why I was able to learn how to write quickly, because if I have a strong idea in my head where the story begins, where the major turning points are, and really what is a powerful ending for it, then I have signposts along the way that I can write toward, because I'm not what they call a pantser.
Right. Me neither.
No, I find myself, I've tried it and found myself so far in the weeds that I was strangling.
Yeah. No, I got to have the outline as well. I need to know where I'm going, even if it's going to shift a little bit throughout the process. But I love having that beginning, middle, and end. I pretty much do a 3-part, not in the last book, but 3 parts and a prologue and an epilogue to wrap things up. Enough resolution so that people are happy, but a little bit more to make them want to get that next book.
No kidding.
Maybe a little more than just a morsel in this last ending. But that's kind of, I do that same thing. I have to have the outline there. I like it, even knowing that it's going to shift once I stop working on the outline and start writing the actual narrative, turning it into the narrative. I can go back for a little bit and then I'll fill some things in just so I have like a visual representation on the outline. So yeah, the pantser, I don't know how you would do that. You could just like maybe write forever, but yeah,
I would. Yeah. But I mean, some people, I think the people who can do it have a really strong sense of the story somewhere already inside of them. And that's why they can, if they do it successfully, it's because they have a very strong compass that they know how to get through it. But I don't know about you, but then I really find great satisfaction in writing the second draft and revising that big steaming pile.
Yes. I do. Actually, someone asked me that yesterday in an interview. They said, like, what's your, something along the lines of what's your favorite part of the process or something, or what's the most fulfilling part of the process? I think that was it. Yeah. What was the most rewarding, fulfilling part of the process? And I said, it is when you finish that first draft one, and then that final draft, like those two right there, because you've got it down. Great. And then you still have a lot of work ahead, obviously. But then when that one's done and you've hit send for the final time and that is off to the publisher, okay, like those two feelings are very similar. First draft, final draft. But the ends of those two, I guess, are the most rewarding. But I love all of it. I love the editing. I love figuring out the problems on the page and figuring out why is this going to work? Is the reader going to go along with this? Or how am I ever going to get them out of this situation? Like I love every part of the process. Coming up with the title, I love that. Coming up with the outline, the theme, a 1-page executive summary, the whole thing. And I find I get to know the characters really through dialogue. And because on my outline at the top, I'll have a list of characters just to make sure that some of the names they don't rhyme or there's like, all that sort of thing. But then I don't know that I might just have like, let's say John Smith, Secret Service agent, bad guy or something like that. But I don't really know that person yet. And then I'll get to know them as they are in dialogue with another character for whatever reason. And I really love getting to know the characters that way, both the good ones and the bad ones. Of course,
the dialogue is action by other means. It's conflict by other means. And it reveals everything about someone's, their goals, their personality, their background, how they see the world. So it's an extremely fun and vivid way to bring a character to life. I think we're pretty lucky, I really feel super lucky that I'm able to do this for a living. It's fantastic.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I wake up every day feeling so fortunate that I get to do this and that the characters and the books are resonating. And yeah, it's a great, that certainly is a great feeling. And then I know it's a couple of the books, like the UNSUB, maybe it's the series or one of the books, and then Dark Corners of the Night, maybe some of them might be coming to screens at some point.
Well, we're going to wait and see. It was, the third novel, The Dark Corners of the Night, was bought by Amazon Studios for development as a television series. So we shall see. You know something about about that. So, and congratulations on the terminal list, by the way. Yes.
Thank you. It's been fun. It's been a really fun process. I learned so much over the last year that I think is impacting my writing. I can point to certain aspects of the last novel where that whole process over the last 2 years, bringing this to life, learning what I learned from the writer's room and from the screenwriter, particularly the showrunner, who is also the lead writer on the whole thing. Just the lessons that I learned from him about storytelling and how you do that in a visual medium versus the page. And I've taken certain elements and applied it, if not consciously, certainly subconsciously. But it was a fun process. But these would be your series would be incredible to see on screen. So so I hope that happens. And time-wise, it took a lot of time, but I think you said once that you'd like to be a part of that process as well.
Definitely. Yeah. Because just as you mentioned, it's a different way of storytelling, and I'm completely okay with understanding that that a television show or a movie is an adaptation of the books we write. And, you hear people say, oh, that's not going to be as good as the book. I'm thinking, well, the book's still there. It didn't go anywhere. Enjoy the books. Telling it on the screen is it has to be told a different way. And that's fine. And if you don't want someone to attempt that, then you don't have to let them. But,
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I'm okay with it.
Yep. I think because usually they like to, it seems like anyway, kind of get rid of the author right away. Like, they don't want you on set saying, you ruined my vision. But in my first, but Antoine Fuqua, the director, and then Chris Pratt, they wanted me involved from the beginning. So they set up a phone call with David DiGilio, the showrunner, back in December of 2019, I think was the first time we spoke. And I knew in that call that I would have to kind of give my a little bit of my background and show that I understood that this was an adaptation, not an exact telling chapter by chapter visually. So as a student of both the thriller genre and then just of film and television as a consumer, as a fan, I got to talk about that. And I brought up different examples. And of course, First Blood, written in 1972 by David Morrell, very different than the 1983 film with Sylvester Stallone, both classics on their own. And First Blood has not been out of print for 50 years. It came out May of 72. So it just turned 50 this past May. But very different than the film. So I got to talk about that, put him at ease, and then we've been essentially inseparable throughout the rest of the process. And here we talk every day. So to include, we're going to talk later today about the second season, if there is one. So we've got the outline going for that and all that. So we'll see. But even if there's not a second season, then I'm thrilled that we at least got one. But it was a really interesting process. So I'm looking forward to seeing yours brought to life, and I know you'll have a great time being part of that process because it is a lot of fun.
Great.
Really collaborative, much different than sitting down just solo, knowing that it's all on your shoulders in front of that computer screen. But what I like about that is that, and particularly with my agent and my publisher, like I said, like I don't feel any political pressure. Like, oh, they said they'd like this. Oh, I don't want to ruin the relationship with them. It's so good. I guess I have to include it. Like there's none of that. But you do have to kind of consider that in the collaborative nature of a writing room, and everyone's bringing their own personal experiences to this, their background, maybe preconceived notions, some bias, whatever it is. Like it's a group, and now it's a team. And there's a team in publishing with agents and publishers and publicists and all that stuff, but not when you're in front of that computer.
Right.
But with this, when you're doing when the screenplay, it is definitely collaborative. But you got a first taste of collaboration right here with this. So how did this come about anyway? Did they reach out to you because of your other work being so amazing and successful? And did Michael Mann, was he a fan and then reach out, or how did this all come about? Like that initial phone call?
Michael had long wanted to write a prequel / sequel to Heat, his classic 1995 crime saga thriller, and he and I have share a literary agent. Got it. So Michael is an extraordinarily accomplished and experienced, brilliant writer, and all his writing has been in screen and television. And as we've been talking about, screenwriting and novel writing are two different disciplines. So he was interested in collaborating with someone who had experience putting 100,000 words down or 120,000 words down on the page, and knew how to pace a novel and everything about what goes into turning an idea into a book. Yeah. So he had read UNSUB, and talked to my agent and said that he wanted to talk to me as well. So we got on the phone and spent a couple of hours discussing what he saw as what his ambitions were for a story that expanded the very iconic but compressed and hyper intense story that is Heat, which takes place over a few weeks in Los Angeles, and is just absolutely just brilliant. but we talked about, what did he want to do? He wanted to tell the story of the characters before they come on the stage at Heat, the years before. Mm-hmm. I mean, I presume a lot of people know that Heat is about a bank robbery crew led by a master thief named Neil McCauley, played by Robert De Niro, and a relentless, brilliant robbery homicide detective in Los Angeles who hunts them, played by Al Pacino. And it's about their conflict and the collision of their worlds after a bank robbery turns the streets of downtown Los Angeles into a war zone, essentially. And I talked to Michael, and we talked a lot about the characters, about where these people had come from, how had they grown up, what was Neil and his his crew doing in the years before they took down this big bank job in Los Angeles. Where had Hannah come from? He had a background in Chicago, the Chicago Police Department, and before that in the Marines and grad school and all kinds of things. And how did he become a hunter of dangerous felons? Mm-hmm. And what would happen in the years after this climactic, explosive finale of Heat to the survivors who are left wounded, isolated, desperate to escape? What's going to happen to them? Mm-hmm. Where are they going to go, and what's going to go on with their lives? So I talked to Michael a long time about those characters, about the new characters you'd have to bring in for a prequel, the other people who are in these, in McCauley and Hannah's lives, and Chris Shiherlis's life. He's played by Val Kilmer in the film. Where could I take with him this story that I just absolutely adored, mm-hmm. and expand it into something bigger that maintained the depth with the characters, but also brought everything that we love in a Michael Mann movie, all that explosive, dynamic action, mm-hmm. that just takes your breath away. And I had to take a breath because working with an icon, I've loved Michael's work since forever. Mm-hmm. I think I don't know how old I was when I saw the Jericho Mile. Oh, wow. And then, Thief, Miami Vice, Manhunter.
Last of the Mohicans, yeah.
Last of the Mohicans, Heat, Collateral. Here's somebody that I've just in utter admiration of. And mm-hmm. he's willing to trust his characters and his story to me to work with him, which I felt as a real weight and responsibility, that I needed to make sure that I could understand these people as the way he did, and that I could tell their story right. Yeah. So I did take a deep breath, and then I thought, I've always wanted to write a heist novel, always wanted to write a big heist novel. And when would I ever have another opportunity to write a heist novel with someone who wrote the best heist movie ever? So I just leapt on it, and we started working together. This was July 2020. Mm. So COVID was raging, and we did not have an opportunity to get together for a very long time. So we did all our planning and outlining and the rough draft from a distance. I'm in Austin. He's in Los Angeles, or a lot of the time that when we were first working together, he was in Japan filming Tokyo Vice. Oh, wow. So we were on the phone a lot with the juggling time zone differences and sending outlines and notes and chapters back and forth until we got a rough draft written. And then last summer was my chance to finally get out and sit down across the desk from him in his office and hash out revisions. And that was terrific. I mean, we'd been working together very closely by then for a year, but being able to sit there and watch him like take a piece of paper and start scribbling on it, and like, we got to change this whole last section here, and then coming up with with new ideas. It was intense and exhilarating, and I can't tell you how much I loved it.
Oh, wow. I can only imagine. That first phone call, what did you do to prep for it? Were you already a Heat fan, and then you watch it again? And did you come up with some ideas that you could kind of, look down to and say, okay, if he goes this direction, I have this. Like, what did you do to prep for that first call?
Absolutely. I had already watched Heat several times, and I'm sure I watched Heat several more within a period of a couple of days before we got on the phone. I knew from speaking to my agent that Michael was interested in writing the novel as both a prequel, the years before Heat, and and a sequel, the years after Heat. So I needed to make sure that I understood where these characters might have, what we knew of their background already, and how we could write a gripping prequel section that didn't just kind of like go through the exposition of how they, Hannah rises through the ranks in the Chicago PD, and then Neil does his time on the yard at Folsom. We didn't want to do that. He really wanted to bring the characters to life in massive action set pieces. And that's how you just, like you talked about dialogue, that's how you get to know the characters, and you get to know them through action, what they do. So we talked out, just kind of sketched out the before and the after new characters, how they would play into the story. Every story has to have a strong antagonist, because if we've got twin protagonists, or triple protagonists in Heat too. We've got Neil, Hannah, and Chris, and they've got to be fighting against something that's trying to,
and he's bad.
Thwart them.
He's so bad. Like reading that first introduction to him, like it's almost uncomfortable to read. But you had to have it in there. You have, because you have to. But it's especially as a parent, you're like, it's just.
I know.
It's
I
so
know.
tough. He makes you definitely despise him, I guess is the best way.
That warms my heart. Thank you so much for saying that. Yes, there is the antagonist is named Otis Wardell. He leads a crew of home invasion robbers, and Hannah is after him because like you say, he's bad. He does bad things. And he likes to go in. He's not a Highline burglar who likes to slip in and out seamlessly without letting anybody know he's been there until they figure out that their diamonds are gone. He likes to go in and take control of the house, because that's what psychologically turns him on. So he's bad, but he has to be bad.
Yeah.
He has to be bad.
You need it in there. It's good that you're uncomfortable. I mean, that's what makes a good novel, is that you're like, you're feeling these emotions, and you're so, especially when it's that bad person. And then I love when there's the part of that gang. I don't want to give too much away, but I just want to tell you how much I love this part, because you feel as it's the things that you can't do in real life. And I feel like that also makes viewers of a movie or readers of a thriller like really connect with it, because you can't, when you're wronged in real life, there are these things you can't do because of societal norms and laws and things like that. But when you have Hannah on that rooftop with someone who lied to him, and that also makes for a complicated character, which I wanted to compliment you on as well. They're all complicated characters. I mean, you know who the bad one is, and the other ones I would say are complicated, and I love it.
Yeah. Thank you. They're all human beings, and people are complex. So yes. And so over the course of developing the story, we figured out what was going to happen in the prequel section. And by the way, the prequel and sequel sections intertwine.
Yes.
You jump back and forth from 1988 to 96.
I wrote it down even. I mean, I love the nonlinear rundown and how it all comes together. So prologue, Heat, a little bit of a, get you up to speed for, I don't know, the one person who didn't see Heat, maybe. I'm not sure. Or haven't seen it multiple times. Then you're in 1995, right after Heat. Then 1988, a little bit of Vegas, and then Chicago. And that scene I just talked about, I have some friends in Chicago, and law enforcement and in legal circles. And I don't think that scene will surprise them from things that I've heard about Chicago, especially back in the day. These are all like older guys that grew up in like 50s, 60s, 70s type Chicago law enforcement. Like, whew.
Well, yeah, Michael Mann grew up in Chicago. He is Chicago to his core, and was very good friends with a number of detectives in the Chicago police force, including Chuck Adamson and Dennis Farina. And had no illusions about what the department was like, even as they were taking criminals off the street.
Yeah,
but
I love that part. I was thinking about my friends back there that are getting up there in age now, but I was thinking about some of the stories they've told me, and then I love. Then you go 1995, 96. We're in Paraguay. Amazing. I love it. I mean, fantastic to go down there, and then 1988 again, then 96, then 2000, and it all comes together. All these different storylines in a way that I'm certain I'm going to take some notes on here.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. This is going to impact how I write. I'm sure, because I'm a student. I'm always a student. I was always a student in the SEAL teams, and I'm always a student of this.
Well, believe me, like working with Michael, I was a student of understanding how you structure such a big story that takes place over decades and continents, and the research that he does. I mean, he's legendary for really wanting to immerse himself in the culture of whatever subject he's writing about, to find some kernel of authenticity that will resonate with an audience. And the legend is accurate. So in the Chicago section of the book, there's a Neil and his crew are doing a bank tunnel job, and we wanted to make sure we knew how to do that. So Michael's like, yeah, let's get on the phone with this guy. He's a retired bank robber.
Wow.
Like, okay.
Wow.
But extremely enlightening. He was a very gentlemanly man in his 80s who did not want to use any kind of language with me, but was happy to tell me exactly how you would steal cars off of a service lot at the dealership, and how you'd get through a concrete wall, and what you need to watch out for in Chicago to make sure that the cops aren't coming around, and all that. So. If you need to know anything about how
I'll keep
to
that in mind.
Yeah,
I'll keep that in mind for sure.
Right. Yeah, and then the action moves to this score that Neil and his crew take down in Mexicali, which again, Michael was an extremely generous and open-minded collaborator. So he said, "Let's do this big score." This is what he saw this as an action set piece. Very thrilling, extremely tense, but was totally open to letting me take the first crack at how to block it out and decide to set it up and everything. And he had pages and pages of comments and revisions afterwards, but that was extremely fun to write. If you can talk about people blasting their way through a motel run by a drug cartel.
Yeah.
Fun, but sitting at my desk, it certainly was. Yeah.
No, I loved all that. It's interesting. So I'm working with another Hollywood director on a screenplay thing, and it might never come to fruition. But in our conversations that we're talking, it's kind of similar. Like he sees it, like a director would see it, and sees these different scenes the way that you're describing right here. It is very, very similar. And the conversations I've had with him seem just like the ones you're having with Michael Mann, and the same kind of notes and the things. Oh yeah, and then we're going to take this turn here, and then all of a sudden things shift, and you're like, wait, where did that come from? And it's just it's great. It's such a fun
exactly.
experience.
And his imagination is extremely expansive, and certainly on the page. You don't have to have a budget for props or for closing down the streets of Los Angeles for weekends at a time. You can do whatever you want. And so I would come up with an idea, and he would come back with something amplified like 5 times over, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I see that now. But I don't want to give away any spoilers at all, except I will say that as a fan of Heat and as the author of this book, that I think Michael and I put on the page the kind of action that rivals anything he had done before in Heat or Collateral or Miami Vice. that it's there, and I hope readers will love it.
Oh, I can confirm that they will love it, and I can confirm that, just like you said, that it's I mean, huge action, and it's awesome, but it's suspenseful, and you're kind of wondering, how is this all going to come together? As a reader and as a student, obviously, I'm thinking the same things. How is this all gonna come together? But I know it is, because it's you and it's Michael Mann, so I know something awesome is going to happen. But it's not just great, you exceed expectations. And when you go into something where your expectations are high, particularly taking an iconic film like Heat and turning it into a novel, Heat 2, that goes from before and to after and ties all these storylines together, that is no small undertaking. So to exceed expectations, like that's tough. I mean, that's amazing that you exceeded my expectations as a fan, obviously, of the thriller genre, and of you, and of Heat and Michael Mann, and to exceed all those expectations, because my expectations were high and you guys blew them away.
Well, that really means a lot to me, because I mean, you are a modern master of the thriller. So I can't tell you how much that means. You've mentioned that, people, you talk about people who are fans of Heat. You hope they will like it. I think that anybody who is a fan of Heat, I hope that, they are going to are going to love it. I will say that it is a standalone thriller. Mm-hmm. So if you don't know Heat, you should, number one, watch it tonight. Mm-hmm. But you can pick this book up, and it just launches you straight into the story. And I think that you can just roll with it and be right on board. Last month, I went to a screening of the new 4K Ultra HD Heat.
Oh, wow.
At the Tribeca Film Festival in New York City, and got to take my son as my date and everything. So it was extremely cool. But this gigantic theater was packed with mega fans of Heat. But it became clear as we went through the movie that there were a lot of people who were seeing it for the first time, because there were moments, there's even quiet moments when a plot turns a shocking yet quiet moment, that there were gasps that filled the theater.
Interesting.
And I thought, wow, that's the power of this. That's the power of this story. That and there's still like new people to come and be brought into it. So it still hits really hard, and I think everybody's gonna love it.
I hadn't thought about that. I hadn't thought of like people that are just getting to an age where they can see something like that. So I didn't really think about somebody, let's say an 8th grader or something, or somebody in high school maybe that's been distracted by their devices and not, maybe because it's different generations. So I didn't really think about that. So to discover that movie for the first time, especially that way, seeing it on the big screen again, because I remember when I saw it on the big screen when it came out, and I know exactly who I was with, where I was, exact theater, and how special that was. Actually, I had Danny Trejo on the podcast last summer.
Oh my gosh!
And we got to talk about it a bit as well. And I actually thought about that.
Fantastic.
Because he showed his family.
Trejo's character is in the novel.
I know,
as well.
We talked about that, because it's in his autobiography that came out, about how they used his uncle's name, I think it was, as the character's name. Mm-hmm. And but so I saw that in there, and I thought back to our conversation that we had last summer about his time doing Heat, and how his family saw, I don't want to ruin it, but I don't know the one person who hasn't seen Heat is actually listening to this. When he gets taken out, his family saw that, and it was a little jarring for them. And then in the terminal list, I might have a little cameo or something similar happens. And my daughter saw it this last weekend, just yesterday or the day before. But she seemed okay. She seemed okay with it. I talked with her about it ahead of time.
How old is she?
17. So she's older. Okay. So yeah.
Okay.
But still, I was just kind of like,
yeah, it is. It's it takes a little negotiating to let your kids read your books for the first time, or see something
like that. Because it's so visceral when you see it in real life, and the way mine did. We had this, the squib is in this headrest. I'm in the shootout with Chris, and I have to throw my head at a certain time when the guy presses the button and the blood goes up all over the thing. And it's, so anyway, I prepped her for it ahead of time, and it was okay. But was it conscious to have a theme of time running through this? I mean, it's by its very nature being nonlinear, but there's a couple sentences in here when you're talking about time. And time to me has always been, I've been, for whatever reason, attracted to watches since I was a little kid, and the mechanics that goes into that, because it makes you think about time and this finite amount of it that we have on Earth, and we don't know exactly when it's going to end, which is why I think I'm so driven to get better at my craft, whether it's a sentence or a paragraph or a book or a Instagram post or a blog or a screenplay or whatever it might be, because people are trusting me with that time that they're never going to get back. So I was curious, was that theme of time that comes up here a few times, was that conscious, or was that just by the nature of the novel and the action and the events?
It was conscious. In Heat, in the film, Neil, the Pacino, the De Niro character, tells the woman he's in love with, he's trying to convince her to go with him to escape Los Angeles, even now that she's finally realized who he really is and what he really does. And he tells her, I know that life is short. Whatever time we get is luck. And the character really feels that. And Michael had talked to real convicts back when he was filming the Jericho Mile, his first feature, which takes place in Folsom Prison, and he filmed it there. And he said that back in that era, there was a strong educational component to try to offer, the cons something to do, and that men would take seriously the idea that they needed to figure out what life was about. I'm doing time. What does that mean? What is time? Why am I here? What am I going to do with it? So they would go to the prison library and say, "What do you got on your book cart that tells me about the meaning of time in a philosophical way?" And the librarian would hand them Camus or something like that. So I think he created these characters who are aware, certainly in their line of work, that things can end at any moment. And how are you going to live? That for Neil and for Hannah, the way they live is a conscious choice. He was very clear that these two people especially are completely conscious about themselves and their lives and what they want to do with the time they have. So it did become a bit of a recurring image in the story.
Yeah, no, it certainly did. It's something I think about personally. It's in all of my novels, in particular in this last one, In the Blood. But it's just, something I think about quite frequently. But and also, when you were writing this, did you think of Al Pacino's voice as you're writing those lines? Because I could picture it in his voice. I could hear it. Some of those ones they're just so great.
Excellent. Yes, I was so fortunate to have the movie in my mind, to have the characters in my mind, to have those terrific performances in my mind. Once you hear Pacino and De Niro speaking and moving and going through everything in the film, it's hard to imagine the characters any other way. And I used that as much as possible to have a really 3D vivid sense of presence of these guys as I was writing. So I thought it was a real treat. It was wonderful to have that there. But and Michael also said, get their voices, not their accents necessarily, but that Hannah is the cop is sarcastic, sardonic. He's he sees everything and he comments on it constantly. Neil is terse. He says nothing extraneous. He wants to be anonymous. If 3 words will do, why use 5? If a grunt will do, why use 1? So you kind of take that and incorporate it into their dialogue and into their personalities. So it was wonderful, and to have Val Kilmer there. I mean, to have the image of Val Kilmer in my mind as I'm writing Chris. That was definitely a big positive.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you see early scripts by any chance of it? Was there any backstory prior to you diving into this project, let's say, so in 1995, let's say 1992, 93, 94, when this is being developed, did Michael Mann have some background on these characters? And I'm thinking about, actually, I think it says it on Amazon. I think it's on Amazon Prime, but Val Kilmer's film Val. And he talks about his life, and he has this video camera footage, and he's put it together, and it's really well done, and it's almost heartbreaking, very emotional. But he says when he got to Iceman, there was no background; it was just this guy. And he says, and so Val Kilmer gave him a backstory and an absentee father and whatever, and that helped him give a little bit of humanity to that character that didn't have any in the Top Gun actual script.
Right.
So was there some backstory from back in the early 90s or leading up to the development or through development of the script for Heat that gave you a little background on these guys, like their time in Vietnam or whatever else, or things that maybe made them who they were for what we're looking at in the movie, which is A Few Weeks in 1995?
Exactly. Michael did give me the shooting script for to read through, which was absolutely fantastic, because that's when I discovered Michael's voice on the page. I could see how vivid and propulsive his writing was, even in screenplay form. And he had written biographies for Hannah and Macaulay and for Chris that he sent to me, and that was revelatory. It was just a gold mine. So Hannah, as you talked about, him growing up in rural Illinois, desperate to get out somehow, driving through the cornfields late at night with his headlights off to see how long he could stay on the road in the pitch black at midnight. So what did he do? He enlisted in the Marines. He had a whole story explaining how Hannah was caught up in the Battle of Hue, and his experience there, and what it was like for him coming back, and then going to college in the United States. For Chris, who is kind of a jumpin' jack Flash character in the movie, he's a screw up in everything except crime.
Yeah.
He lets his life spin out of control, except when he's on the job, and then he is focused and professional and ruthless and lethal. But he grew up without a father. That his dad had and got his mom pregnant at 17 the night before he shipped out to Germany after being drafted, and then discovered the Autobahn, which had no speed limit, and he and three of his buddies died 3 weeks later because they decided to see how fast they could go in some little car. So Chris grew up with a mom who was a go-go dancer at a biker bar, and so that was kind of like, okay, now I see why why he turned out the way he did. But it was just it was wonderful to see that Michael knew who all these people were, and that he had given all this to the actors as well, so they knew where these people had come from as well.
Oh, so great. So great. I love the 80s references in there that are just woven in, because I have a child of the 80s. So I always go back to that formative time in my youth. So I love that. And then I love how the word heat is in here, just put in here a couple times, and not as like heat, but just woven in. And I love that. So fantastic. Is there plans for a film? Because you can't help but think that when you read this, what an amazing film this could be.
It's Michael Mann. What do you think? Of course, there are plans for a film. He has big plans for a film. Good. And that's all I can say.
Good. I love it. I mean, you have to think that, but then I did a quick little online look, and I was like, I'm not sure what's. But yeah, I hope that you guys do that and get to collaborate together on it, because it's such an amazing collaboration. Obviously, I so enjoyed this, and I think you guys did knock it out of the park. But thank you so much for spending all this time with me. This has been so
My
cool.
pleasure. And
it is. But before I let you go, because I know you have to go write more books and have so many other things going on, but I have to ask you about being a 3-time Jeopardy champion.
Yes.
What is that?
You want to try out?
All about? No, I would crumble under the pressure. Everybody thinks they're pretty smart when they're sitting on their couch, in the evening watching it. But when you have an audience and on stage and there's lights and you have money on the line and all this other stuff, that's got to be. It's like the person in like boxing who's really good in the boxing gym, but they go and for whatever reason in the ring, or same thing with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or with mixed martial arts, when they get in that ring or they get in that octagon and there's all those people, it's just those lights and the whatever that is that shifts. It's a little different. And I can only imagine it's the same with Jeopardy, that I think I'm pretty clever when I can get a couple of those things when I'm sitting on my couch, but up there on stage, that's got to be a different deal. So how did that all come about?
Well, like you, I've just always been a huge Jeopardy fan, and I would sit there and think, I'm getting all these answers. And finally, one day, at the end of every show, it says, if you want to be a contestant on Jeopardy, at the time it said, call this number. So I finally said, what am I waiting for? And I did. And, they said, come down for an audition, and you have to take a written test, pop culture, general knowledge. And if you pass that, then they have you play a mock game to make sure that you're not just going to be like weird or too boring or something. And then they say, we'll call you. And, a couple of weeks later, they did. They said, come, we want you to be on the show. At that time, I was super cool. It took me until about 3 days before I was supposed to go tape it that I panicked and started getting every trivia book I could, trying to remember the titles of every Shakespeare play, every Civil War battle, Canadian provinces, because Alex Trebek.
Good thinking. Good thinking.
So just smashing the trivia into my mind. But once they call you up onto the set, and the cameras come on and the game starts to play, you're just so overtaken with, well, I'm pretty competitive, but so you just fall straight into it, and the focus comes on, and you want to be fast on the buzzer. You want to get in there. And it was so incredibly fun that I could have gone on forever. At the time, they only, you could only play 5 days max when I was on there. But it was just a tremendous experience. It was absolutely wonderful. And I'm going to have one more brag here, that I'm now not the only Jeopardy champion in the family, that my daughter was on last year and is a Jeopardy champion.
I did note that. Yes, that is amazing. Are there other families that have multi-generational champions?
I think not, because Kate mentioned it on the broadcast. It was one of Alex Trebek's final shows, but she mentioned it, and apparently he sent his staff to go and check it out, and they didn't come up with anybody else. So,
amazing. A family of overachievers. I love it. Yeah, I love Jeopardy. I'm not Jeopardy. I love Trivial Pursuit, and I've not played Trivial Pursuit in years. I think I keep threatening to have a family board game night, like every Sunday evening or something. But I just need to.
Oh, you should.
Yeah, I need to action that. I need to move that up my priority list. But I think I'll force the kids to sit through some Trivial Pursuit, because I loved doing that growing up. It was so much fun. There's some similarities there to Jeopardy as well. But that is fantastic. Amazing. And what's up next for you then? Are we writing? What's happening?
There's more UNSUB to come, more standalones. Heat is just still now hitting the bookstores and libraries. It's out August 9th. Yep. And actually, it's August 1st now. My other big project this year has been rebuilding my house. But a year ago today, we had a major fire, a car fire in the garage, and it took out the entire house essentially. So we've been rebuilding it, but we just got back in this week.
Oh my goodness!
And that's why I've got this very empty bookshelf.
I was wondering about that actually. I'm like, maybe she's moving into a new office. Like in my head, I've been thinking.
I am. If I turned the screen around, you would see the rest of it looks like a construction site. But we are. Everybody's okay.
Oh wow!
We were able to rebuild, but that's been our other big project this year.
Oh,
but I am home, and it's fantastic. So now I just need furniture.
Oh my gosh! So it got all your books and everything?
We've got some boxes that we haven't unpacked yet that say books, but yeah, a lot of them did go, but the stories remain, and they can be replaced.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that is crazy. Were you in the house when that happened?
No, I was not. My husband was. I was. This was right after I'd been working with Michael for a week. I was still in California, and my husband was home, parked the car in the garage, came in, and heard a gigantic boom. And so when my phone rang, I picked it up, and I wasn't really. I'm like, "Hey, honey, how are you?" And then I'm like, "Why are there sirens?"
Oh my God!
But
What happened? What
anyway,
did they say
the fire
happened?
department was fantastic. I'm sorry.
What did they say happened?
Like
usually we don't expect our cars to explode when we park them in the garage.
We haven't received the official report yet, but it was apparently an electrical malfunction. And I was under the hood. Fire extinguisher didn't work. Well, it did. It emptied quickly, but by that point, it was out of control. So, but the fire department is close, and they were absolutely fantastic. And we're going to have them over for a Christmas party now that we're back in the house.
Perfect. Well, best of luck with the new construction. And of course, I don't need to wish you luck with this because it's gonna crush. And everybody, whether they're a fan of Heat or not, they will be after reading this book. And if they haven't seen it, they will watch the movie after reading this. They'll want to. And hopefully, we'll see a film of this. And looking forward to the next UNSUB and everything else that you have going on. So thank you so much for taking all this time today. I really appreciate it.
Are you kidding? Oh, this is great. What's a better way to spend an afternoon getting to talk writing with you? Yeah. Looking forward to the next adventure of James Reese. So please, can't wait.
I'm back on it this afternoon. So locking back down. So, but thank you so much, and best wishes with everything. And please reach out if there's ever anything I can do. And hopefully we'll link up in person soon.
Absolutely.
Great. Thanks so much.
Right. Thanks, Jack.
Take care. Thank you to our presenting sponsor, Navy Federal Credit Union. I have been a member since 1996. There's my original card right there. I got that at Dam Neck, Virginia, when I was at Intelligence Specialist A School at the Navy and Marine Corps Intelligence Training Center on Dam Neck, Virginia, right before I went to BUD/S. So it was boot camp, ISA school, BUD/S, and then off to the races in the SEAL team. But the entire time, to include through today, I have been a member of Navy Federal Credit Union. And now they're sponsoring this podcast, which is amazing. Crazy how things come full circle like that. Becoming a member at Navy Federal Credit Union lets you experience more. From everyday commutes to your next big vacation, the flagship credit card earns you 3 times the points on travel, so you can get rewarded for wherever you're headed next. Plus, this premium travel card has a low annual fee of $49 and 2 times the points on all purchases outside of travel, which means the rewards don't have to end even when the vacation does. Speaking of rewards, you can get a Navy Federal auto loan and reward yourself with a new car. Applying is easy. You can do it on their mobile app, online, or by phone. And it's so fast, you can get a decision in seconds. Navy Federal Credit Union has great rates on auto loans. With their car buying service powered by TrueCar, you can shop, compare, and get upfront pricing on your next new or used car. At Navy Federal, our members are the mission. Nice. I like that. Navy Federal is insured by NCUA, open to the armed forces, the DoD, veterans, and their families. Flagship rates are variable and range between 10.74% and 18% APR based on credit worthiness. ATM fees for cash advances are up to $1 at non-Navy Federal ATMs. Credit and collateral subject to approval. Message and data rates may apply. Visit NavyFederal.org for more information and to apply. That's NavyFederal.org. I want to thank my friends at Black Rifle Coffee for sponsoring the Danger Close podcast. I've been a huge fan for the longest time. Drink Black Rifle Coffee every day. And if you keep your eyes peeled, you will notice that perhaps Chris Pratt is wearing a Black Rifle Coffee t-shirt, not unsimilar to this one, in the Amazon series adaptation of The Terminal List. Now you can go to blackriflecoffee.com/dangerclose and use code DangerClose20 at checkout for 20% off your purchase and your first coffee club order. Black Rifle Coffee, America's coffee. Keep crushing. All right, let's talk about 10,000.cc. So 10,000, awesome company. If you have tried their interval shorts or their tactical shorts, which these are right here, you know that you are not going back to anything else. These things are awesome. And I got a pair of pants from them recently too. And man, amazing. I've worn a lot of shorts over the years, obviously being a West Coast SEAL at Team 5 when I started out. So that was kind of the thing. But I have worn a lot of shorts, and these ones, hands down, the best. I mean, that's just how it goes. They were tested by over 50 special operations members in their testing phase. So it makes sense that they're awesome, but definitely try these out. Go to 10,000.cc, follow them on Instagram, same thing, 10,000.cc on Instagram. But go to the website, check it out. Super easy to order. There's not crazy amount of different options. So, and then there's packages on there as well. I mean, they just do a fantastic job in all that they do. Free shipping, free returns. Go to 10,000.cc /danger close for 15% off your order. You will not regret it. Welcome to the gear highlight portion of the Danger Close podcast. All right, I'm going to start today with Hooten Young. Oh yeah. So if you saw the terminal list on Amazon Prime Video in that first episode, you will note that James Reese and Boozer are drinking some Hooten Young whiskey in that bar scene. And wanted to give a little tip of the hat to Delta, Norm Hooten. So man, thank you. And he sent me these. So Hooten Young, thank you guys for sending this care package along. It will go to good use, I assure you. You also might remember that James Reese uses an email, and it is hootenyoung@protonmail.com when he tries to reconnect with Katie to ask her a question. So Hooten Young is in there twice for those that are paying attention. So thank you guys for doing this. Check out the website, hootenyoung.com. That's HOOTENYOUNG.com. So this one right here, this is a Cabernet cask finish in this one right here, aged 6 years. This one right here is barrel proof. What does it say here? Aged 12 years, Hooten Young right here with this white label. Right here, age 6 years, Zinfandel cask finish, right there with that green label, light green. This one right here, and Hoot, thanks for signing these for me. Really appreciate it. So cool. This one aged 12 years, batch number 1. Man, love it. This one right here, aged 15 years, right there. And what's this one? Right here, Syrah cask finish right here, 6 years. So very cool. I will be sampling these all shortly. So head on over. They also have cigars on there. Check out their Instagram as well, Hooten Young. They take some great pictures of everybody hanging out, drinking some whiskey and smoking some cigars. So they're my kind of people. What else do I have here? Ben Garwood. So he's on the podcast coming up shortly, and check him out with everything that he has going on. But Groundhammer right here and the Defenders of the Realm. He's a former SAS operator. We had a great conversation on the podcast, and I'm going to read the back here. So Groundhammer, two veterans fanatical about action and sci-fi, created a series of sagas inspired by real people and real events. Groundhammer and the Defenders of the Realm is an alternative story about the creation of life and the battle for good over evil. Our lead character, Groundhammer, is inspired by soldiers who served in 22 SAS, whose personalities, actions, and deeds have had profound influences on our creators. Story by Ben Garwood and Joe Stephenson. Man, this looks awesome. And I have them on order. They're not here yet. I think they're coming from Great Britain. So the actual stories, but check this out right here. Check out everything that Ben Garwood has going on. Once again, we had a great conversation together. Super cool guy. And hopefully we'll be linking up in person soon. What else? Check this out. So I'm very involved with the covers of my novels in the hardcover editions. But when it comes to international covers, or when it comes to the large print editions, not so much. So on the covers of my novels, if something shows up and it has a fingers on the trigger or something like that, or it's not the right kind of pistol, or it's like pointing at the cover model's leg or something like that, I make adjustments. And so I'm very involved in those. But when it comes to these other ones, I kind of think they're just fun to let go however they are created. And some of these are pretty cool and fun. So I'm not sure exactly what kind of pistol this is right here. Looks a little bit like Tom Cruise right there. No beard. I'm not sure exactly what's going on, but this is the large print edition. So all the books have large print editions, and the covers on those large print editions are pretty classic. So I have a good time with those. Same thing with the international versions of the covers. They're pretty cool to just see what the take is from other countries. And there's some other ones like this. Like one, he has his shirt cut off. It looks like he just made it like 5 minutes before in one of the covers. But anyway, it's pretty fun. And Montana Knife Company. Bam, look at this. Josh Smith, thank you so much. I'm going to open this right here. So you get this. It gives you a little information. This is the flathead fillet that just showed up right here. So it gives you information on your blade. Comes with a sticker. Once again, Montana Knife Company right here. Designed and hand finished by master bladesmith Josh Smith. So very cool. And I'm going to open it up right here so we can check it out. I saw this fillet come up and yeah, it looks awesome. So there we go. There is the sheath right there. And ooh, look at that. Well, that's awesome. This is going to get some use. So that is pretty cool. Josh, thank you so much. Check out Montana Knife Company. When they do a drop, I think you have to sign up for the newsletter so you know when the drops are coming. But when they do a knife drop, those things are gone. So sign up for the newsletter, Montana Knife Company. And that's it for today. Thank you for tuning in to the Danger Close podcast, an Ironclad original presented by Navy Federal Credit Union. To find out more about Meg Gardiner, go to her website, and that is MEGGARDINER.com. You can also follow her on Twitter at Meg Gardiner1. That's MEGGARDINER1. And be sure and pick up Heat 2. It is absolutely fantastic. I hope that they make a film because, it'll be incredible. You can follow me on the social channels at Jack Carr USA. You can go to officialjackcarr.com. That is the website. You can sign up for the newsletter there and click on shop for the merch. If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to leave a 5-star rating and review wherever you get your podcasts, and be sure to subscribe. Until the next time, take care out there. Stay safe, be strong, keep fighting.